Hello, ka-sharers! For today's video, I'm going to share with you the different list of targeted learner interventions, the learning task for distance learning, assessment method for distance learning with sample activities based on the LDM2 or the Learning Delivery Modalities course for teachers. List of targeted learner interventions. Designing instruction in the different learning delivery. Activity 4. The LCP assures that all possible measures will be taken to ensure that no child will be excluded from learning during the COVID-19 crisis. Think about groups of learners in your school division who might require special consideration to be able to participate in distance learning. Describe what targeted interventions you would develop to include them. Listed below are some examples which may be relevant to your context. Add others as appropriate. Write down your answers in your study notebook and share your ideas at your next LAC session. Learner group and targeted intervention. For the learners without parents or household member who can guide and support their learning at home. Online distance learning. If the student has an access to internet connectivity and with gadgets to use for online communication, through this, the teacher can assist him or her in understanding the lesson. What if internet connectivity and gadgets are not available? Group tutoring could help, which can be done by assigning group of classmates nearest to his or her location so they could help one another in understanding the lesson provided that the minimum health protocols are observed. For the beginning readers, kinder to grade 3. The targeted intervention. Since it is in the lower grade yet, parents' tutoring can be possible for these pupils. The help of those family members who have a higher educational attainment could be teachers for these pupils. For the struggling readers, grades 4 to 12, targeted intervention. Parent tutoring could help for students or pupils at grade 4 to 10. However, for students at grade 11 to 12, a member of the family with college degree could tutor these students. If ever, these individuals are not available at home, teachers could send some reading materials that can be used in reading with instructions for somebody administering the reading program for these pupils or students. For the learner group who happen to don't have access to devices and internet, targeted intervention, group tutoring or modular learning could help them. For the inaccessible or living in a remote and or unsafe areas, targeted intervention, group tutoring with some students available at their place and modular learning. For the indigenous people, the targeted intervention could be home visitation so they can accomplish the modular learning provided that minimum health protocols are observed. Module 3A, Learning Task for Distance Learning. Lesson 2, Activity 4, Learning Task. Learning Delivery Modality. Modular Distance Learning or the MDL. For the grade level and learning area, grade 7 Math, Number Sense. Lesson topic sets. Learning objectives. Illustrates well-defined sets, subsets, universal sets, null set, cardinality of sets, union and intersection of sets, and the difference of two sets. Learning resource or materials needed. SLM and worksheets. Part of the lesson or the learning task. Check if already present in the SLM. And additional remarks. Example, can be done via voice calls, can be facilitated by a household partner, can be done via a learning activity sheet, can be presented via an internet-based resource, can be facilitated during a synchronous learning session, and etc. What to do before the lesson? Number 1, review previous lesson. Number 2, clarify concepts from previous lesson. Number 3, present warm-up activities to establish interest with new lesson. Number 4, check learners' prior knowledge about the new lesson. Number 5, present connection between old and new lesson and establish purpose for new lesson. Number 6, state lesson objectives as guide for learners. Lesson proper. Number 1, explain, model, demonstrate, and illustrate the concepts, ideas, skills, or processes that students will eventually internalize. Number 2, help learners understand and master new information. Number 3, provide learners with feedback. And number 4, check for learners' understanding. What to do after the lesson. Number 1, wrap up activities. Number 2, emphasize key information and concepts discussed. 3, ask learners to recall key activities and concepts discussed. Number 4, reinforce what teacher has taught. Number 5, assess whether lesson has been mastered. Number 6, transfer ideas and concepts to new situations. Module 3A, Assessment Method for Distance Learning. Lesson 2, Activity 6. These are various methods of assessment. Lesson 2, Activity 6. There are various methods of assessment. Read Table 2 of the Deped Order 8, Series 2015 on Policy Guidelines on Classroom Assessment to see examples such as games, quizzes, and interviews. These methods that are commonly used in the classroom may be modified to be suitable for distance learning. Which assessment methods can you adopt in distance learning, considering the content area that you are teaching? In your study notebook, recreate the following table and list 5 methods that you would like to try. For each one, write how you plan to use it in distance learning. These are the purposes of formative assessment based on the Table 2 of the parts of the lesson. We have before the lesson. We have also the purpose for the learner and for the teacher, and the examples of assessment methods. For the learner, purpose: know what he knows about the topic or lesson. Understand the purpose of the lesson and how to do well in the lesson. Identify ideas or concepts he misunderstands. And identify barriers to learning. Purpose for the teacher. Get information about what the learner already knows and can do about the new lesson. Share learning intentions and success criteria to the learners. Determine misconceptions and identify what hinders learning. Examples of assessment methods: agree-disagree activities, games, interviews, inventories, checklist of skills relevant to the topic in the learning area, KWL activities, what I know, what I want to know, what I learned, open-ended questions, and practice exercises. For the lesson proper. For the purpose of the learner, identify one's strengths and weaknesses. Identify barriers to learning. Identify factors that help him or her learn. Know what he knows and does not know. Monitor his or her own progress. For the teachers, provide immediate feedback to learners. Identify what hinders learning. Identify what facilitates learning. Identify learning gaps. Track learner progress in comparison to formative assessment results prior to the lesson proper. To make decisions on whether to proceed with the next lesson, reteach, or provide for corrective measures or reinforcements. Sample methods: multimedia presentations, observations, other formative performance tests, simple activities that can be drawn from a specific topic or lesson, quizzes, recorded but not graded, recitations, simulation activities. Continuation of the Table 2 of the DepEd Order 8, Series 2015 on Policy Guidelines on Classroom Assessment. After the lesson, the purpose for the students is to tell and recognize whether she or he met learning objectives and success criteria. Number 2, seek support through remediation, enrichment, or other strategies. Purpose for the teachers is to assess whether learning objectives have been met for a specified duration. Number 2, remediate and or enrich with appropriate strategies as needed. And number 3, evaluate whether learning intentions and success criteria have been met. And you can use the following: checklist, discussion, games, performance tasks that emanate from the lesson objectives, practice exercises, short quizzes, written work. And for the assessment method, example, short quiz. How to adopt the assessment method in distance learning. I will send 3-item quiz via text message before the lesson. Based on the responses, I will take note of the common misconceptions and clarify them to the learners during our online session or via text message. Reflective journal. How to adopt assessment method in distance learning. I will ask the learners to write a short reflection on the lesson given in the module. This can be written in a sheet of paper and could be sent back to the teachers upon the retrieval of their printed modules, or might be sent to me via messenger if gadgets are available. For the formative assessment, a 10-item test will be sent after every week. This may be sent through phone message or could be a paper pencil test also. Recitation. A short recitation may be done through phone call, video chat, or Google Classroom. This will depend on the availability of gadgets. Portfolio or compilation of students' outputs. Each student shall be asked to compile their best outputs after they had been checked and returned by the teacher. This will be collected a week before the end of each grading period. Summative test or summative assessment. I will give a summative test about the weekly lessons before the end of the grading period.